So in this video, we will be performing hip extension, donkey kicks, bridges, and before performing any hip extension exercises, make sure you do some soft tissue work on the quads, the hip flexors, and some quad stretches like maybe a wall quad, or standing quad stretch, and maybe like a kneeling hip flexor, hip flexor stretches. So I will perform the basic bridge. You can progress from there too. So if you can't hold more than 10 seconds on one leg bridge, that's a fail. So you got to work on the exercises I mentioned earlier. Make sure you're not arching your back. Make sure you're flat back, and then just lift up from the butt, and then just squeeze. But if you do one leg, and if you're shaking or twisting all around the joint, and then yeah, that's a fail. So another one is the donkey kick. So that's another hip extension exercise. You can actually help, this is more abduction, but this will help strengthen the glutes and help perform better for hip extension. The bent over leg raise. Hold it there. If you can't hold it for more than 10 seconds, that's also a fail. You might want to work on the tools I showed you in the introduction. Work on just soften those tissues up, any knots you may have. That will help a lot. And then just do your stretches I will list it in the lecture, and just work on those. And then we'll move on to the next video. So in this video, we'll be performing hip flexion. For example, hip flexion is where it's like it's actually a deadlift. And if you make sure you don't arch your back, and if you can bend more than 90 degrees, that's a pass. But if you can't hold it for 30 seconds, that's a fail. And if you part of that progressively, as you progress to a single leg, and if you start twisting around the joint, like immediately, or if you can't hold yourself a good 30 seconds or past 90 degrees, that's also a fail. So to address this, I got a list for them in the lecture. And to help address this, you can do a basic standing hamstring stretch, like so, or do like a lunge stance. This will help relax the hip flexors. Do soft tissue work on hip flexors and the quads. So that's help relax, lengthen the muscles, and help perform hip flexion before doing the activation stuff like the hip hinge and all this. They call this the can-can, and there's type exercises which will be part of the next video, adduction, abduction. And if you can't hold yourself for 30 seconds at this position, another fail. So use those exercises listed on the lecture, and I'll see you on the next video. So in this video, we'll be performing hip adduction. So we're doing a self-test for the groin, and you want to do some soft tissue work, the adductors and the glutes. So the basic one, you can try performing. You can do a side-lying adductor lift, just to test out your groin strength. And make sure your spine is not compromised while doing this exercise. So if you can't perform more than 15 reps or hold 30 seconds, that's a fail. So if you can't hold 30 seconds, fail. And if you can't perform 15 reps continuously, that's a fail. So you want to stretch it out, soft tissue, or that adductor. And another exercise is a bit more advanced. So you want to do strengthening your groin first before performing this groin exercise, because you can easily injure your groin quite easily. So you can have a yoga block to support, or have your elbow down like this. And if you can't do 30 seconds, because this is a hard one to do, if you can't do it for 30 seconds, that's a fail too. So do this one once you strengthen your groin up. The exercises are listed on the lecture. And before performing any exercises, you can always, like this hip abduction, you can do the frog stretch. You can do some contraction work. You can also do a goalie one, like so, over like that. You can try these ones for the hip abduction exercises. Something to consider. And then we'll move on to the next video. Before performing any hip abduction exercises, make sure you do soft tissue work on the adductors, the groin, the glutes, and the outer hip. So you want to do some goalie stretches, goalie ones, these ones. All the stretch will be listed in the lecture. The frog one, and some outer hip stretch, which is also listed on the lecture. And then carry on onto the exercises. The hip abduction. You can be in this position or lying down somewhere comfortable like this. You can have your leg 90 degrees. Your leg can be parallel and your toe pretty much facing towards the ceiling, just about. Well, just a bit side on. So straight here. You want to hold yourself a good 30 seconds or 15 reps. Can't do that, that's a fail. And if one side is weaker, you want to add one more set. So just say this is my weak side, 3 sets. On my stronger side, 2 sets or 15. Another one you can do, the fire hydrant. Go on all fours. Make sure you're not rounding your back. Keep a neutral spine. Your hand just about underneath your shoulders, and just do like a dog taking doing his business. This is called the fire hydrant. And if you can't perform 15 seconds or hold 15 reps, 30 seconds, that's a fail if you can't perform any of those instructions. So just keep that in mind. And make sure your spine's not compromised while doing this exercise, because you might be twisting around the joint. Like this one, you could be like, you might be doing this, or you'd be sort of around the joint, so don't do that too, that's another fail. So to help stabilize that, you can also do a side plank to help strengthen the side hip muscles. You can go on the knees, and they will help strengthen up the hip adduction type exercises later on. So just keep this in mind too. If you can't do a 30-second hold on this, that's also a fail. So work on the hip abduction exercises listed on the lecture. And we carry on the next video. In this video, we'll be performing and self-testing hip external rotation. So you want to be on the floor. Before doing any exercises, make sure, for those stiff people out there, maybe do some soft tissue work on the adductors and glutes. There's some goalie stretches, all be listed on the lecture anyways. Pigeon stretches, all the good stuff. So maintain a posterior tilt. Have your legs like this, flat. If you can bend your leg like this without compromising your knee and having 180 degrees or 90, like so. And if you can't go or up to your fist or one thumbs up, that's a fail. So if you go more than 2 fists up, that's a fail. But if you can go down to your thumb, that's preferably better. That's a pass. So if you can't go, if you're like up here and don't force yourself. You don't want to hurt your knee. But just to make sure your mobility is up to scratch. That's to make sure your hip external rotation is up to date. You must see physios performing that. And to help strengthen the rotators, the external rotators, go on a pigeon stretch. This is probably a little bit more advanced. So a pigeon, you've seen this before, like yoga. Maybe use a bench, because I've got a bench over there. Or maybe a soft seat, maybe. But if you're too stiff, you can go into hip flexion. Crossover like that, like if you're lying down, but slowly move up if you can. Or on the side. Make sure don't compromise the knee. And then do a glute stretch. That's one of many examples. And they'll all be listed on the lecture. So just keep that in mind. I'll see you on the next video. So this is a self-test and performing a hip internal rotation. So you want to go somewhat in this position. You may not be flexible, but it's just an example. You can also have a chair, something comfortable to sit on, and just do some activation work around up here, which is like just about the TFL area, the glute medius, the side gluteal muscles here. You can do some, activation, hold, contract for a good 10 seconds and then let go, relax, and hold another 10 seconds and relax again. Just fire them up. And then you can do maybe, let's say, 5 contractions, probably about 2 sets, just like a warm up. And then you can lift this leg up, like so. Hold, you might get cramps if you're not used to it. If you can't do maybe up to 10 seconds, that's a fail. And another indication, if you're ready for squatting or not, you may see some physios doing stuff like this, or you'll be lying on your stomach and have your legs out like that and open them out at 35 degrees. If you can't get up to 35, that's also a fail. So you want to work on, for the stiff people out there, massage the groin and the glutes. You can do some clamshells, which is like on your side, lying down on your side. Just get comfy and just do these ones. You can also use the band. That will help out a lot too. And as you progress, you can go like on a side plank and do like an intermediate clamshell exercise. That will help stabilize the hip rotators. And you can use ankle weights, and that will help you determine whether you're good for deep squatting So you need strong, all the exercises will be listed in the lecture, but you need a strong internal rotation and hip flexion for deep squatting, so just keep that in mind.